Hello and welcome to Unit 5, Lesson 2. We're going to talk about relations and functions today. So hopefully you'll learn pretty quickly. It's not a too difficult lesson. Can represent relations in a variety of ways. Identify domain and range of a relation and differentiate between a relation and a function. So there's a lot of vocab here. And I don't think it's too difficult. So let's just get started. A relation is a set of ordered pairs. Okay. And they can simply just be that. A relation can be shown in a variety of ways, and it can just be a list of ordered pairs. It could also be a graph. It could also be a table, or it could be something called a mapping diagram, and you'll see that in this lesson. That's a new one. The first three you've probably seen, but the last one you might not have. The domain is the x values of a relation. Which we call the inputs. And the range is the y values, which we call the outputs. So let's look at some examples. All right. Clear all this and scroll down. So there's a list of ordered pairs. Simple as that. The domain, we're going to list it out, and we're going to use these little squiggly brackets. Okay, and I'm just going to list the x values in order of how I see them. So -3, 2, 6, and 4. Close it, and that's my domain. Those are the x values. The range, just as simple, the y values. So 4, 7, -1, and there's -1 again. I'm not going to write the second -1. I'm going to stop right there. One thing I want you to note, when a domain or range, doesn't matter if it's domain or range, value is repeated, we only list that repeated value once. Okay, so that's going to be something to watch for. Let's do the next one. The relation is shown in table form in this one. So we're going to list out the domain and range of this one. The domain, which is represented by age, is 2, 3, 1, and 3 again. So I'm not going to list the 3 again. The range is 84, 99, 70, and 92. Not too difficult, hopefully, at this point. So that's the domain and the range. We got one more example on a graph. Scroll down to get to it. These are a set of ordered pairs or points on the graph. And we just have to go through and look at the x and the y values. So the domain, this is -3. This one's -2. This one's 0. And then I got 2 at 2. I got a point there and a point there, but they're both that's 3. X equals 3. And that's it. The range, that's different. That's the y values. So I'm looking at a different portion of this. So I'll start at the bottom on this one. So that's -1. There's 1 at 0. There's 1 at 1. And there's actually 2 at 2, but I don't want to list them both. Okay, and that is my range for this problem. Hopefully nothing too difficult yet. Now we're going to get to a function. Now this first definition is a little bit weird. I don't like it. And I'll give you another definition that helps make it much simpler. A function is a relation that assigns exactly one value in the range to each value in the domain. All right, so basically what it's saying in a fancy way is a function is a relation in which the domain, the x values, do not repeat. Keyword is not repeat. So a function does not, the domain does not repeat. One way we can tell that is with the vertical line test. That's a test or a check used to determine if a relation is a function. If any vertical line, and it's any vertical line, passes through more than one point in the relation is not a function. All right, so we're going to take a couple, do a couple examples with that down below. Tell whether or not each relation represents a function and explain. So the first one should look familiar. It's the same set of ordered pairs that we had on the front of the notes. I'm going to draw a bunch of vertical lines here just to show you what's happening. At this point, there's only 1 point on that red vertical line. So it's still good. At that point, there's only 1 point on that vertical line. We're still good. There's 1 point there. There's 2 points there. That vertical line says that this is not a function. Why? We would say does not pass the vertical line test. I'll write it this time. Next couple times, I'll just say it in words. You could also say it fails the vertical line test. I'll abbreviate vertical line test to VLT. Okay, not a function because it does not pass the vertical line test. Let's look at number 2. Is there a vertical line that hits that circle in more than one spot? Yes, there is. There's a vertical line. There's multiple. Okay, there's one there. Hits the circle once and twice. Once, twice. So this is not a function as well, because it does not pass the vertical line test. The last one, probably guess, is a function. If I draw any vertical line, it's only going to hit the U shape once. Every single one of them. It's only going to hit once. So yes, it's a function because it passes the vertical line test. All right, so those are all vertical line test examples. We have a few more examples down below that are not vertical line test. So how do we tell if we don't have a graph? Well, we look at the domain. So for 4 and 5, we're going to look at the domain, which we were actually doing with the vertical line test, and I'll show you that in class. It's actually, you're still looking at the domain there, but we're looking at the x values in 4 and 5. Okay, so if I look at this, the x values are 4, -2, 0, -2. There's a repeat, so it's not a function. The domain repeated. Okay, I wrote it out because I want you to see the wording and how I said that. It's not a function because the domain repeats. Look at number 5. There's 6s. Every single y value is a 6. But does the y value matter? It does not. You look at the x values. There's no repeats here. So this one is a function because the domain does not repeat. Okay, so hopefully that's not too difficult. You're looking at the x values. Do they repeat? If they do, not a function. If they don't, then it is a function. One more way to figure that out, and I mentioned it at the very beginning of the notes, is we're going to look at a mapping diagram. A mapping diagram shows the relationship between the x and the y, just another way of showing it. Sometimes it's more helpful, sometimes it's more work. Okay, so you're just going to see what this does. I'm going to list the domain in the first oval, and I'm going to list the range in the second oval. So the domain, 2, again 2, again 2, and again 2. So it's really only 2. So I want to put it more in the middle. The range is -3, 0, 5, and 12. And then I draw a line. This is important. You need to show the line, the connection between, okay? the domain, and the range values. So the 2 connects with all 4 range values. And because of that, it is not a function. The domain is definitely repeated, therefore it's not a function. Let's do one more with the mapping diagram. I'm going to list the domain. So 7, 2, -1, and 0. Some people list them in order, greatest to least. I don't really care. The range is -4, 8, 3, and 8 again. So let's draw our arrows. 7 goes to -4. 2 goes to 8. -1 goes to 3. And 0 goes to 8. Do any of those domains repeat? No, they don't. Therefore, it is a function. I'll have some people who see that those 2 lines cross right there and say, oh, it's not a function because those lines cross. Don't say that. Okay. The domain did not repeat. Therefore, this is a function. Okay. And that concludes lesson 2. Lesson 3 will be next.